You are now listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc, sharing insights through real, honest, and practical ways to improve your communication and relationships. Featuring your hosts, Dr. Pamela Kreiser, Meredith Edwards-Nagle, and Taylor Polindo.
We start this episode with a quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Now, we're back obviously talking about nonverbal communication again, but that just seemed to summarize it pretty well.
Yeah. Today we're talking about tone, right?
So we're talking about tone and the category we call paralanguage.
Which you can break down that word.
Yes, I can.
More than just me.
I can break it down for Meredith and one or two of you. No.
Wow. That was ruthless. You know what you don't know, actually, is we have a quiz for you.
Oh, okay. Good.
And I haven't decided if this is the day I want to give it to you or not.
Okay. Well, you already killed me in December, so
I want you to stew on it.
Okay.
But we have created a quiz for you in subject of nonverbals, and it could be coming for you. So just get ready.
Okay. So paralanguage, anyway, paralanguage is para, which is with the language. And so these are the vocalics that accompany the words that we say. In the category of paralanguage, we, of course, have the tone or pitch of the speech. We have the volume. We have the rate. We have the articulation. We have the disfluencies. There's lots that go with the speech, with the words.
It says in literature, the tone of voice refers to the author's feelings towards the subject as expressed through the writing itself. I thought that was really telling of if we think about that as our message and instead of written, like what we're communicating, our tone really is expressing how you feel about it. It doesn't really matter what you say, what the words are, because your tone carries so much weight.
So that explains why my elderly father types his emails in all caps. He's just yelling to everybody. I told him it's yelling, and I said, it's how it's perceived. The message received is the one that counts. I said, everyone thinks you're yelling. And he said, I'm not yelling, so that's too bad for them. And I was like, yeah, so maybe we have a little learning to do on the communication front.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he does that. He does all caps.
I use like 15 exclamation marks. Do you get it? I'm excited. I'm
Did
excited.
You get it? Yeah.
That's so good.
Tone is interesting. Tone is interesting. So with tone, I find that when a partner or sibling has told me I have a specific tone, I get super on the defense. No, I don't. I'm not sounding like that. I didn't mean it, or whatever. Sometimes you can't hear the way you're saying something when you're saying it. And that has helped me a lot in my partner relationship to calm down the defensiveness. Oh, I didn't hear the way I said that.
Their tone or their perception of your tone? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But are you pissed because you're the last one to find out? They're coming across that way?
I mean, I didn't think of it like that. It's more just I couldn't have sounded like that. Moi. So then I have to defend that I just am passionate, and that's why I spoke like that. But it's ridiculous. And your tone matters and how you speak with somebody. And I know I've had interactions with people where it irritates me that they aren't listening when I tell them the way that they're saying something is aggressive or whatever it is, and they don't want to hear it.
That's my biggest beef with tone, honestly, is that I feel like people use it as an excuse. Like, well, I didn't say anything mean. Your words maybe were not mean, but you pretty much just stabbed them in the back. We all felt it with other nonverbals too, but tone especially. I've witnessed some really poor behavior. The words they choose are chosen in such a way that are not rude, but the way they say it is so rude that when I have confronted people about something, they'll say, I didn't say anything mean. Technically, that may be true, but we all felt like it was really mean what you just said.
And you can say Maya Angelou thought you were mean too.
Yeah. And I honestly can't even remember the words because we don't remember the words, but I remember the interaction and I remember it being very poor. And I just think it's such an excuse and kind of immature.
It's also misinformed because we would want to harken back to the previous episode we did on haptics or touch. In that episode, we made some comments about nonverbal communication saying that it carries more meaning in the interaction than the words. So it's pretty naive for somebody to defend and say, I didn't say those words, so you don't have that feeling.
Yeah.
I misunderstand all of nonverbal then, because
They're
nonverbal
just
is
getting
more
by on
powerful.
a technicality in their
Right.
head.
Yeah.
It's
I like that, a technicality. And I think the other thing that I would say is, this is probably more true when we have physiological reactions, but we believe the nonverbal because we believe that it's less mediated than the words, less curated. So when your face turns red, I believe that more than you telling me I'm not embarrassed. I'm going to believe the nonverbal way more. And when you tell me that you're not mad, but you're yelling at me, and you say, I'm not mad, of course I think you're mad. As soon as I get the incongruity, I'm going to go to the nonverbal for the meaning immediately.
So nonverbal is more authentic?
I think we believe it's less curated. We can do less to control it. You can't get the tear back in your eye. It's not as easy to control as the words. And so I think we as humans put less stock in it because we know that it carries less meaning, those words do. And the nonverbal carries more. So as we're evaluating that, it makes sense, right? Gottman did a study where he had the parents arguing and the child that was merely observing the parents had significantly higher adrenaline levels in their urine just from the parents arguing in their presence.
God, I remember that. Blew my mind. Yeah.
So
I actually just had a real life example of this. My daughter's only 1.5-ish. My husband and I were it wasn't like volatile or not healthy, but we were definitely in a disagreement. And she was playing next to us, and all of a sudden she just was like desperately trying to get both of our attention.
Yes.
But like obnoxiously trying to she was like, Mama, Dada, 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 look, see, like, or telling us she was really fast and running around. And we both couldn't have a conversation. And then we both were like, I think she's not liking this.
Yes.
Like we got together and hugged. But,
so
sorry.
Just to go back to that, that's where I was going with the Gottman research to say that is felt by someone who maybe doesn't understand the words.
Right.
Yeah. So you're actually using words she doesn't know in your conversation and still having that reaction. So that proves that nonverbal carries more of the message, right?
I never thought about it like that.
So then does the research suggest that you shouldn't have those discussions in front of small children? Because some people say they need to see conflict to see the resolution part.
That seems too broad of a question. I think there's probably some arguments that aren't for little ears, whatever way of saying that. But yeah, we can be a product of people that don't have reconciliation skills because you need to see those things in order to be able to do them. Otherwise, you're going to learn them in therapy or incorrectly.
But that's my question. Do you really have to see that from your parents? Do you have to see them fight and resolve to learn how to do that? Is that true?
I'm fighting the way you're saying it. I don't think you have to see them fight. I think we've talked about so much in communication. Conflict is inevitable.
There's research about the negative effects for sure. Yeah. I just gave you one of them. Right. And that's been replicated a bunch of times. I think what I would say is it depends, which is really not a great answer because you're going to say, really? It depends? And I think it depends on if you actually get to that constructive point and how much collateral damage you might have in that conversation that might negatively affect the child, that might in the end make it not worth it. So if you have this nasty argument, but you do, and eventually 2 hours later resolve it, but the child got put through the ringer, I would probably say I couldn't advocate that for being a good thing.
Yeah. And you can have conflict without raised voices and without a lot of things that would trigger that for them, right?
But to Meredith's story, she doesn't know the words, and she got the reaction of mom and dad. She was only taking in the nonverbal and accurately hearing voice and interruption and features of voice and other nonverbals. And she determined this is not good.
And arguably it was pretty minimal. It was a very small tension, but it was just quick. Within 5 minutes, she was becoming erratic. It was really weird. Both were just like, whoa. This is not going well, this experience for her. And then afterward, it was interesting. I forgot this part of it. We were like, oh, let's start changing the way we were saying things. And we gave each other a hug. And then she went, Mama, Dada, happy. And automatically at 1.5 noticed that something was changing, even though I don't know if she even knew what we were saying. It was just, we're trying to not do the disagreement. We're like, we'll do this when she goes to sleep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
The other thing I would say about your story, Meredith, is you should actually be happy with her reaction because she's doing the work she needs to do to understand nonverbal communication.
Oh, that's cool.
She's measuring the climate and she's responding to the climate. She has all kinds of skills she's developing that do notice it.
Wow, that's a cool way to think
Also,
about
it's
that.
like not a normal thing for her, right? That's not, you guys aren't in conflict all the time.
Yeah.
She's not tuned it out because it's so normal.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I don't know if that's reassuring.
No, that is, that's helpful. It's that experience has only happened with her twice. And that's how we noticed it really the second time was this last week. We were like, oh, that's what she was doing before. It just was interesting. And that it ended with her saying that we were happy. It's just funny.
I didn't think about it until now, but I just had a conversation with my 5-year-old about it's not about the words you're saying, it's how you're saying it. So like we're really on him about this yucky behavior. It's just all these like, he just makes these noises anytime I ask him to do something. It's yuck. I don't like it. It's all tone. And I've just had a conversation with him. It's not even what you're saying. You didn't say anything wrong. It's how you said it to me that is the problem.
Yes.
And I'm really just driving this one home because I cannot take the snarky.
Oh my gosh, it starts so early. You know, we always talk about, we get ready for subjects that come up in your life. And this came up for you in that way. My daughter has started to do that, this like sound, like when she wants something.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say to her yet because I'm not nice about it.
They get yucky real early. Ugh.
And I've been telling her different noise, please. And so sometimes she'll do it and she'll go, different sound. And then she'll just go, la, 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 la. To change that. Because I'm like,
really
let's
funny.
try a different sound. Let's like something else. And then it gets into words. But even as like a parent or a listener, it's whining or complaining. You're just like, I don't want to hear this anymore.
Okay, so I got a question, Taylor. So
Okay.
you said it's yuck. Is it loud?
No, it doesn't have to be. And I especially noticed this between the siblings. So he'll just say his brother's name, but he says it in a teasing way. So nothing wrong with saying your brother's name. But when you're saying, "Na, na, 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 na," and you just say their name, if they start screaming and saying, no, no. And it's like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with what you're saying. But you're teasing him, even though you're not saying anything that's teasing.
Wow.
And he's responding. This 2-year-old's responding to this 5-year-old in a really negative way. It's how he says certain things or just makes noises. Ugh, fine. Ugh, okay.
You're such a good 5-year-old.
So obnoxious.
You know what they say? They say that what children do in early childhood, they do again in high school.
Yeah, I'm very fearful.
So when he says, can I borrow the car? And you say no, you're going to get a big sigh. Yeah.
That's the hope in trying to nip it in the bud now.
Yeah.
Is that doesn't happen. But yes, I have heard that. And it is very concerning to me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, Tone. Tone.
All right. So let's talk about loud talkers.
Ooh.
So you know how there's some people that talk really loud?
Yes.
I have a couple family members that are really top in the charts sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to actually hear what they're saying sometimes when they're talking so loud.
Yeah, I've definitely got those family members. Do you think that you can't understand them because you start to tune them out?
Or I think it's just too big.
It's just too big to comprehend it all.
It's just like, wow, I can almost not hear what you're saying. You're just screaming at me.
I feel like if you ever had an argument with someone that yells, it's like that freeze thing that happens. Like, I just completely can't hear you anymore. I do that. I'm like, I'm done. Like, I've checked out of here mentally. And yeah, that's interesting.
Okay, so loud talkers. Do you have any suggestions on what to do with them?
I know.
It's interesting you say that because I just had a whole conversation with one of my classes the other day, and we were talking about the principle of watching your message land on someone. And I think too often people don't watch their messages land. Because if you see somebody backing up, you can almost see them moving space-wise away from you or looking away or looking startled. Yeah, they'll give you other nonverbal feedback that is how it's landing on them. I get it when you're excited and you're talking louder because you're excited. And that seems to me to be more forgivable or more easy. Oh my gosh, you're the champion. That's so great. You won the trophy. I can do that one. I think when you're angry with me or you're pushing me or arguing against me, if you're increasing the volume, So that means that your message and your nonverbal message is very congruent and it's too big for me. So you might see me react, but what I find is that sometimes people don't even look for how their messages land. They don't notice. And you should look around because I just opened my eyes. I leaned back. I had put my hands up maybe to stop you.
Because that goes back to, as always, episode 1, the message received is the one that counts. And if you're not tracking, you could follow someone's nonverbal cues on how they're receiving your message.
Can you give an example of how would an adjustment happen in the moment? Something like that.
I might come running into the house and say, you need to move your car. It's blocking the driveway, and just get in somebody's face. And you can see how people are reacting to that. You're going to see people back up. You're going to see people look startled.
Mm-hmm.
You might have people put their hands up like, slow down. Whoa, hold on. Not my car or whatever. Because sometimes it's not even us that people come at us, but it's not even our thing. If you keep coming at the person, you're ignoring the most important information, which is their nonverbal reaction to what you're saying.
So being able to adjust your tone of voice would require a person to get out of their own head in terms of communicating with someone else. It's not just about your bubble and your space. But if what you have to say, you want to have some sort of influence or effect or strength or whatever the word is for you in the conversation, then you have to be able to focus on the person listening to you.
Mm-hmm. And your failure to focus indicates your less effectiveness in communication.
Yeah. Wow. You can feel that too when you're being talked to and someone isn't noticing your body language.
Yeah.
Tone is hard for me because I feel like I've had interactions with, especially as a child, adults in my life where you've grown up and whether they're aunts, uncles, or parents, and then you become an adult and then you try to establish, hey, I don't like when you speak to me like that. And then that tone, that person is like, this is the way that I am. And
which is not adaptable or effective.
No.
When people say it's just the way that I am, that's like, try to excuse all of my bad behavior.
Yeah.
It's just not real.
Yeah. I like that.
No, it's not real.
Just excuse everything about me and then we can have a good relationship.
It's also dumping all the communicative work on you because it's saying, oh, it's just me. I just talk loud. So you have to do all the adaptation. And I don't think we want to communicate in a way that we're dumping the workload on everyone around us. I don't think they're going to want to be with us.
So it's lazy. That's just lazy and you don't want to do work.
Yeah, but don't you notice you back away from those people? I do. I have less and less communication with them as I get older because I'm just like, this is exhausting. I'm doing a lot of work for me and you to do this. And there's no adjustment happening on your tone on that end of the table. It makes relationships harder.
Yeah.
It does.
I think it puts a lot of distance. I just look at my own life.
Was it you, Teighlor, you wanted to talk about up-talking?
Oh, it's called many things. There's lots of names for it, but I think I'm guilty of it. I think in real life, I talk people out of believing me through my nonverbals.
For your tone.
Especially my tone, but where you end the sentence and it sounds more like a question. And I do it in a way in my head to leave room for you to disagree with me, for you to have room. Maybe you have different information, that I'm not the end all be all authoritative figure, but it's really lack of confidence, I think.
What I find is there's a lot of individuals who don't want to fully take control of the message they're sending and or the situation they're in. So they rise the tone on the end of it to put a little question mark on it to soften it. What it does is it creates a mixed message. So it's inconsistent. So I say, so you should go to your room and we'll talk about this later. And that does not sound like what you should be saying, which is you should go to your room. I should drop the tone, not raise it. And as soon as I raise it, I'm contradicting myself. What does that do for the listener? Here's the contradiction, and is unclear whether I really have to go do that or not. Why did I give that example? Because I'm guessing that you probably don't do it as much with the kids.
Yeah, definitely. That's a perfect example. Meredith, I don't think I would do it as much with you because I'm comfortable in having my own voice and opinion, like you knowing it.
Good.
And that's fine with me. So yeah, but I do think I talk people out of believing me a lot.
And I think you just want to line it up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Adjust that tone so that it supports the message that you want to send. When I'm training people in communication, the people that I'm training to specifically drop their tone often are people who are not assertive, who do not have control or command of messages they're sending. And they tend to have people walk on them. The training we're talking about that's a way to resist from people walking all over you, is to take that tone down and be more definite sounding with your tone when you have a definite sounding message to match.
Okay, got it.
Make a declarative statement.
Yeah.
I like that. Another feature of voice that I wanted to talk about was rate.
Ooh.
Speaking rates. Just to put it in context for everybody, the average speaking rate is about 125 words a minute. That's the average speaking rate. I am totally aware that I exceed that. I break the speed limit all the time. There are some people in our world that speak slowly,
Mm-hmm.
and they speak below that 125. I have trouble thinking they're competent.
Wow. Another example that just comes in our lives always. So, I hate talking about people. It makes me feel bad. There's a person that I know, and they were telling my child a nursery rhyme in about half the speed that the song should have been sung. And I was losing my mind. What is wrong with me? I don't know why. But,
I know why.
Why?
Oh, I can tell you, because you process 400 to 600 words a minute. So almost 4 times more the average speed. That's why you and I could listen to something and still be thinking about balancing our checkbook. We can actually dual process because we have actually a little bit of space, because you're only going at 150 words a minute. So I can actually do that and do something else at the same time. Okay. So that's why I think I'm impatient when you go under 125. I'm bored. I'm sitting there going, you're killing me.
Yeah.
And you have the same thing with the nursery rhyme.
I was a struggle. I was wondering what was going on inside of my mind. And calm down, Meredith. It's okay.
Yeah.
Couldn't it also express that they think you're incompetent? Like they're speaking slower for you and slowing their words down?
Yeah, that could be received that way. Sure. Let me talk to you about paralanguage, everyone.
That's how I
part of nonverbal communication. No, I think you could definitely have that. That's the message received again.
Yeah.
But it's to your point about paralanguage and how it works. That rate affects how I think about that message. And I'm listening more to the fact that you sound condescending than I am to the directions you're giving me on how to bake the cake.
Right.
Yeah, it can be condescending. Yeah, that's interesting.
Now, what about fast talkers? There's some people that talk really fast. I can be one of them.
I feel like I'm one of them.
Now, I feel like we have a little favored status because of the brain processing faster. So I think we're probably
saying we're smarter.
So I think we're perceived as more credible than someone who would be slow talking.
Yeah, they seem more confident to me because they're delivering their message at a quick rate. So that's
I have also had situations where I've spoken too quickly because I'm nervous.
Yeah.
So is there a recommendation around rate or ways to improve our rate or anything like that? Or just be conscious of your rate?
I think conscious, and I think understanding the people you're talking to.
Again, going back to checking their cues to see how your message is landing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I find also in my job, sometimes I use interpreters, and sometimes I do change my rate when I'm using interpreters because I know it takes them longer to interpret some of the American sayings that I use. So they'll have to adjust their interpreting. So I'll actually stop and control my rate more consciously.
So setting matters for this. You have professional settings where your rate definitely influences your audience.
If I find myself speaking too quickly and that's related to nerves, it's not only how it lands on the other people, it's also information for me. I'll think about it and say, wow, you spoke so quickly because you were uncomfortable or you were trying to rush it to get out of that feeling. And I have to take that as a lesson and say, that's why you prepare.
Yeah.
That's a great observation. I would never have thought that.
Do you prepare difficult conversations? Do you actually practice them out?
100%.
Yeah. You do it
100%.
not just in your head either, because I know a lot of people think about it in their head, but you actually do it.
Yeah, I actually do it. And not sure if we talked about it on the podcast yet, but I'm also a huge role player with my children. We don't do this much anymore, but we sure did in junior high and high school, where we would role play the conversation you had to have with your teacher or your coach or your friend or your whoever. And we would role play that, and we would role play it until it became less daunting or less uncomfortable.
My poor husband, I role play so many conversations with him. He's we've heard this one 3 times.
I like that.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so another aspect of paralanguage to talk about are these verbal fillers. So I call them disfluencies.
Sorry, I got lost at that word.
Disfluency means it hampers the fluency or removes the fluency.
Don't people perceive you as less competent when you have a lot of those?
There's a couple different types of disfluencies. So there are some disfluencies that you and I do that are habitual. I have a friend that says, "You know what I mean?" at the end of a lot of her sentences.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's more habitual. I don't know that she's really asking me if I know what she means, right? But the other kind of disfluency that I find very interesting in communication is what we call the word search disfluency, where I'm trying to think through the different words that I know where I want to add a word in, but I haven't selected it yet. That's where I think that gets to competence, where somebody might be word searching a lot and it's, haven't you thought this through? And I might doubt your competence consequently.
Okay.
So word searching is an interesting one.
I don't know. I think I do that a lot. Did I just do it?
You think I do that a lot, frequently.
I can see how the word searching can be like, didn't you prepare for this? Or you didn't know what you wanted to say. That can be like a gut reaction. But I also can appreciate that I've seen some people try to learn how to adjust some of the ways that they've said things. Mm-hmm. And so they'll take a pause and try again or wait to say it better. And so there can be like respect behind that too.
Pause is a part of tone, isn't it?
Yes.
Pausing can be really powerful, so it can convey a lot of different meanings.
Yeah. And can be interpreted a lot of different ways. Like you said, when you pause, I could think that you don't know what you're saying. Or you could be pausing for me to have time to digest what you're saying. So that's going to be very contextual for sure.
Yeah. Do we want to talk at all about tone of voice, like the deep voices?
I thought that was interesting.
So I'll just tell you what the research confirms, that deep voiced men have a perception of power and sexual allure. So they are perceived as more attractive, more masculine, more respectable, more dominant. People think they're seen as more effective CEOs, more deserving as political candidates, and in some cases, better leaders. So that's mostly perception. Mm-hmm. But even in the hunter-gatherers, the women perceive men with lower voices as better hunters, and they're more likely to father more children. And I don't think they know if that is due to them being perceived as more attractive or a higher status. But I think that there's research indicating this among primates as well.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
This is what hunter-gatherers in Tanzania. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I remember having this conversation in dating, and I think I talked to my brother about this. We all grew up in our family like playing musical instruments and whatnot, and I think maybe it's an influence of music and just tone being like a musicality of a person's voice. And I remember my brother telling me when we were younger that he could never date somebody that he didn't like the sound of their voice. He's absolutely not. I don't care what other qualities. If I don't want to listen to your voice, I can't. There's no way I'm having a meal with you. I wonder how that goes, like with online dating, and then you just text and you meet up. And it's, wasn't what I was expecting.
Oh, that's a no.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, tone affects a lot. We're talking about tone in terms of like rate or yelling or aggression or all these other things. That's not a pleasing sound to my ear. That's interesting.
The other side of things, did you ever look at the research around women and their menstrual cycles and how their voice changes? So there was a study with all these men listening to what they thought were different women, and they had to rate attractiveness, but it was the same woman over different days of the month. And no surprise, your voice is more attractive around your baby making time.
Your baby making time?
I don't remember the correct term of that phase of your cycle, but literally everything about you, your body is trying to make a baby, and it's your smells, your tone of voice,
Whoa.
everything is sending off
Whoa.
these signals. And that's what the study was showing, was that even your tone of voice, that it changes a lot over the course of the
Interesting.
month, but also that it sounds more attractive to some people based on the day.
Should the episode title be Watch Your Tone, You're Gonna Make a Baby?
That baby making tone.
Oh my gosh, no.
But
Run.
that
That's
was
funny.
in the research of Barry White, that song, Let's Get It On, right? That's
Yeah.
the one. That's like very sexual. He's got the deepest voice ever.
Yeah.
That's it.
Besides the fact that song is just very sexual in its words as well.
So it's very congruent in that
Yes.
the tone
message.
matches the message, right?
Yeah.
So good. Something that I love about paralanguage is that we can accent things. And I find it fun to play with that. So I could say something like, she's my friend. Or I could say, she's my friend. Or she's my friend. Right? I can say it all the different ways.
Right.
And I find that so interesting. How I see paralanguage is that is the context for how I want you to receive the message.
Right.
So I'm wrapping it in this tone to help you interpret how I want to have you hear it.
Mhm.
So she's my friend. And I'm just spiking that my.
Yeah.
I love that speech does that.
Totally changes the meaning. Your tone.
Yeah. Let me underline that for you, even though I'm saying it, but let me do a little underlining to give you a little clue here. That's that, right? One thing that we could also relate back to with this episode is we've talked a lot about perception checking on this podcast. And I think you could use perception checking when you hear incongruent messages. So you have someone say, I'm fine. They might do it really quick. I'm fine. And we hear a contradictory thing. We hear on the one hand, you're saying you're fine. On the other hand, I'm not hearing that you are. And I could say, you mentioned that you're fine. And I hear the words that you're saying, but it doesn't sound like you are. So what's going on? And I could create a perception check that kind of investigates that incongruity and saying, non-verbally, I'm getting this, but you're not saying that. When you get that contradiction and you want to manage it, that's a way you could address it. Say, I'm hearing you say you're not mad, but I'm hearing that you are. Or you say you're fine, but you don't appear to be. What's going on? And my point is not about dismissing it. My point's more about how do you address that when you're getting that mixed message because you're not sure what to do about it. And in the hearing the mixed message, you're believing the nonverbal more anyway.
And that kind of goes to what you've talked about before, which is if the goal is more understanding and more communication, then you would lean into that.
And sometimes I think for someone who says they're fine when they're not, once in a while I'll encounter that and I'll think, if I can do a good perception check, if I can come in here with authenticity and compassion and just say, hey, it doesn't seem like you're fine. You know, what's going on? That might be the runway that person needed to be able to actually explain what's not fine. Because I think sometimes you and I will have a feeling and we'll say, if you don't authentically ask me about it, I'm not going to the trouble.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a way to elicit that clarification back from the other people.
That's a good one.
And that's what we talk about on a Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Once again, thank you for joining us today. Please remember to rate, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And thank you for listening to Asking for a Friend.
Let us know what you thought of the episode. Our email is hello@afafpodcast.com. This show is for educational purposes only and is copyrighted. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. Thanks for listening to Asking for a Friend with TalkDoc.